Now, before everything, this is what I want you to do. Okay. So we need to detox everything right now. So what you should do is remove all of the unnecessary time frames. Okay. So by unnecessary time frames, I mean the lower time frames like M1, M5, M15. If you're using them, cut that off. Okay. Because if you are trading this way, we need to keep it simple as possible. Okay. So we should remove all the unnecessary time frames and remember that these are the 5 time frames that we will be using. Okay, so don't take any custom time frames, don't do any of that. These are the only time frames that we'll be using, because like if you stick to these time frames, if you master these time frames, you wouldn't even need a huge monitor or whatever to trade. Okay, just your phone is more than enough, because on MT4 these are the time frames you have, right? So you can even trade using MT4 itself. Okay, so just follow the instructions that I give you. So just remove all the unnecessary time frames if you are using them. Okay, but for the first few days, it's okay to use them, but don't these concepts work on the lower time frames as well. But then again, just stay out of the lower time frames, because the lower time frames are always messy. You know that, right? So just stay out of the lower time frames. So that's always better. Okay, so these will be the 5 time frames that we're using: monthly, weekly, daily, H4, and the H1. Now remember, monthly, weekly, and the daily time frame. These three time frames will be the time frames that we're using for direction. Okay, so for direction, these are the 3 time frames that we use. And then the H4 and the H1 will be for confirmation entries. I'll show you now. There's a very nice setup with H4 and H1. Happens almost on a daily basis. Okay, a confirmation setup, something like a full margin setup. Like if you have that, yeah, like most of these Malaysian traders go full margin on setups like this. So I'll teach you that as well. Okay, but might take some time, but that's okay. I'll teach you. H4 and H1 will be the time frame for confirmation entries, to refine the higher time frame zones and all of that. These are the 2 time frames that we'll be using. Okay, so once again, daily, weekly, and monthly will be the direction time frame. So we'll determine the direction on these 3 time frames, and then your entries are going to come from H4 and then H1. Okay, so I'll show you how it's done later, because this is a basic session. I wanted to show you this stuff only. Okay, so yeah, this
Brother,
yeah.
I have a question. So will we be only trading gold with this
Now
strategy?
you can trade anything you want. Okay, I'm trading only gold. Okay, you
Okay.
can trade whatever you want, but I trade only gold. Okay, so yeah.
Yeah.
Now these are the 5 time frames. Okay, these are the 5 time frames. Now simply, why do we like you need to have that question, right? Why are we looking at direction on these time frames only? Because there's the thing. Now there's a concept called storylines. Okay, there's something called decision points. We'll be going over all of that. They're very important stuff. But now with storylines, what we do is we now remember, storylines are what we'll be using for directions, storylines, and then decision points. But yeah, now now storylines are only on the daily, weekly, and the monthly time frame. Okay, storylines are only on the daily, weekly, and the monthly time frame. Because now there's the thing. Now let's say, just a simple example. I know you guys might know this, might not. So I'll just make it simple. Now let's say we have something from point A to point B. We have something like this. Okay, so now we know that daily is bearish. So this is what we're expecting. We're expecting the daily time frame to drop from here to here. This is what we are expecting. Just a random example. Okay, so now how would this look like on a daily time frame? Now on the daily time frame, it could be just one single candle, right? Let's say we know the direction. We know that daily wants to move from up here to down here, from point A to point B. So on the daily time frame, it is just one single candle. But what happens is, if you go into the lower time frames, what would you have now? The direction of the higher time frame is from here to here. But on the lower time frames, in the middle of this, you might get a bullish breakout. Now, if you are with SMC, you might say, oh, stock on breakout structure strong low, let me buy it here. And then what happens? It fails. Because why? It will fail. The real reason it's dropping is to remove from point A to point B, from this daily zone to this daily zone. So is it okay for you to just randomly buy inside of a 1 hour low? No, it's not. Because that is why, just a simple example. This is the reason why we stay out of the lower time frames. We'll only go into the lower time frames for entries and to refine your key levels and all that stuff. Okay, so that is that. Now let's get started with the very basics of support and resistance. Okay, so let's go one by one. Okay, I'm not gonna show you everything in one session. No, we're gonna go one by one. We're gonna do the basics of SNR, like how we identify key levels and all of that. And then in the next session, we can go through trend lines, because trend lines are also important. Okay, so yeah, trend lines are important. We'll go over that trend lines, and then The next session, we will go through storylines and decision points. Okay, and then from the fourth session onwards, we're gonna combine all of it. I'll show you what to do at the beginning of each month. I'll show you what to do at the beginning of each week. I'll show what to do at the beginning of every day. And not only that, as soon as every single H4 candle closes, I'll tell you what to do. Okay, because H4 candle closings are very, very important for intraday setups. Okay, so we will go through all of that. Do not worry. But you need to understand the basics before doing any of that stuff. Okay, so let's get started now. It's like this. Okay, another thing to point out is that, remember, we will be using the line chart a lot. Okay, we will be dealing with the line chart a lot. Okay, now we will go through candlesticks as well, but mainly we'll be using the line chart because, yeah, this is important. And also, if you don't want to just switch back and forth from candlesticks to line chart, what you could do is go to indicators and then, yeah, you might know this already, but yeah, take the moving average. Okay, take the moving average and then set its length to 1. And yeah, there you go. You have the line chart on the candlestick chart itself. Okay, so if you don't want to go back and forth on this is what you could do. You have the line chart and the candlestick both together. Okay, but I don't do this. It's messy, right? Look at this. I want to have my charts as clean as possible. Okay, so I'll take it off. If you want, you can do this. That's perfectly fine. Okay, now let's get started. Now, first thing, the basic support and resistance. Okay, so the basic support and resistance will look like this. Okay, a resistance is something like this, the A formation. This is what we call a resistance. On a line chart, if you have this A formation, we call it a resistance. Okay, we call it a resistance. And then same thing, if we have the V formation, you can see this, right? This looks like an A. This looks like a V. So if we have a V formation on a line chart, we call it a support. Okay, very simple. We call it a support. Now, remember, this resistance is formed when you have a bullish candle and a bearish candle. Okay, when you have a bullish candle followed by a bearish candle, we have a resistance. When we have a bearish candle followed by a bullish candle, we have a support. I'll show you examples, don't worry. Okay, so very simple. This is okay. Let's go through this and then I'll show you examples in the chart. Okay, so yeah, that is that. And then there's another one. It is something like this. Now, what is this? This is a resistance, right? That's a resistance right there, because I told you. Now, what if the resistance is broken? Right? Once the resistance is broken, it turns into a support. Remember that. Okay, so once the resistance is broken, it will turn into a support. So we call this RBS. Okay, resistance broken, turning into a support. So this was a resistance. Now it is broken. Then it turns into a support. That is why we call it RBS. Very simple. Okay, so I'll show you examples. You would expect a move like this. This RBS. Okay, and then same thing when it comes here. What's this? This is a support, right? This right here is a support. I told you. When we have the V formation, we call it a support. Now, what if the V is broken? Right? What if this gets broken? So once a support is broken, remember, once a support is broken, it'll turn into a resistance like this. Okay, we could call it a resistance. And so we call this SBR. Okay, the names aren't necessary. As long as you understand the logic behind it, it's more than enough. Okay, so because why? First of all, it was a support and it got broken right here. So then it acts as a resistance. Okay, so SBR, very simple. So that's that. And then there's another type. There's another type that is, you can call it head and shoulder. You can call it left shoulder. You can call it QML. Yeah, now most of the people call it a QML, something like this. The name isn't necessary once again. Something like this. Okay, this is what we call the left shoulder. Okay, this is what we call the left shoulder. You can call it head and shoulder, but just simply call it a resistance. Okay, just simply call it a resistance because that is also this A formation, right? That is also an A formation. And then same thing here. This is what we call a QML once again. Now it's just a support, right? This is just a support. We could expect moves like this. Okay, now you might be confused. Okay, we have this zone here. We have this zone here. We have this last resort, or the resistance in here. You can call it a last resort as well because This is the last zone you have, right? The last reversal zone you have, the resistance. So you can call it a last resort, whatever. And yeah, now you might be wondering, okay, we have three zones. Which one am I going to pick? Okay, so that's something for the next, for the advanced stuff. Okay, do not focus on that right away. Now, first thing you need to do is train your eyes to see these key levels as soon as you open the charts, because it's very important. Okay, and then yeah, so a bullish candle and a bearish candle will create a resistance. A bearish candle and a bullish candle will create a support. Once a resistance is broken, it turns into a support. Once the support is broken, it turns into a resistance. And then we have this QMLs or as head and shoulder, whatever. And then there's another type. That one I'll show you in the chart itself. Okay, so let me delete this and I'll show you some examples of this, starting from, let's start from the weekly time frame. Let's see some examples. Okay. I'm trying to show you some clear examples. Yeah, you can see this very clear. What do we have in here? A bullish candle and a bearish candle. So what is this? A resistance, right? This right here is what we call a resistance. So you can see this, right? That is the A formation right here. We put the magnet tool. Always use the magnet tool when you're drawing these zones. So it just automatically goes into the closing prices like this. So there we go. Okay, now do not confuse this. I see many people making this mistake. Okay, so when you're marking out this resistance, remember when we're dealing with support and resistance, what we deal with is closing prices of candles. Okay, now I see most people marking out this in here. Is this a closing price? No, this is not, right? This is not a closing price. This is an opening price. This is the closing price, because the line chart only prints the closing prices. If I put it here and go to the line chart, see, it's out of nowhere. Okay, so always make sure you mark it out on the closing prices. So there we go. The closing of this bullish candle is the one that created the resistance. So where did the market come into? Right here. See that? Came right here and it dropped. So now what you could do is, now these are advanced stuff. Okay, do not think very deeply about this. Okay, so these are just advanced stuff I'm going to show you. Now what you could do is, understanding that this right here is a weekly resistance, you could go into the daily time frame and then make some refinements. So if you go to the daily, inside of this daily resistance, what did we have? We had more zones on the daily, right? We had one here. What is this? This is SBR, right? First of all, it was a support. Now it is broken, so it can act as a resistance. And then we have another zone in here. That is another resistance on the daily time frame. Can you see that? Okay, so we have that. We have that. Then what happens? What happens? Let's see. There it goes. Now, can you see the precision? Okay, so it's awesome once you understand this. So look at this. Taps, and then it starts to melt. Okay, so rather than just directly pulling the trigger from the weekly time frame, what you could do is refine it to the dailies, okay, or as to the H4, or as to the H1, whatever, and then take your trades. So there we go. Okay, you see that, right? So I'm trying to, these are just basics. Okay, do not think, okay, then why didn't it go here? Okay, so these are the questions that you might have, right? Okay, why didn't it go here? Okay, so yeah, you will understand them once we go into the advanced sessions. Don't worry about that. Okay, so you see that, right? That is a simple resistance. That's a very simple resistance. And now, did you see where this drop came from? Where did this come from? What is this? By now, you need to understand this. Resistance, right? Or as what's the name you want to call it? You can call it head and shoulder, right? Or as left shoulder, whatever name you want to call it. Can you see that? So that is that. And then look at this. Tapped and then it melted. Can you see that? Okay, so very nice trade. It taps and then it melts. Okay, because that's a weekly level. Okay, that is a weekly level. So there we go. That is also a type of resistance. And oh, look at this one. Where did this buy come from? Where did the buy come from? A support. Now, trust me now, almost or like 99% of the swing highs and lows are made on these A's and V's. Okay, the highs, the high of the month, high of the week, high of the day, whatever it is, they are always made. They're always made on A's and V's. Okay, they are always made on these A's and V's. So remember that very well. Okay, you need to remember that very well. Just practice that and see. Okay, don't take my words for granted. Always practice and see. You can see this, right? They have the V. Look at the precision. Look at the precision. Like we're still on the weekly time frame. Okay, we're still on the weekly time frame. No drawdown basically. See, just a 25 pip drawdown. Who cares, right? So there we go. We had that, and what else? Let's see. Let's see some more. Oh yeah, look at this one. I put it here. Where did the buy come from, right? Where did the buy come from? Now, what you could do is refine this into lower time frames. Now, look at this. On the weekly, we had a support, very clear. Okay, and then if you go to the daily, we still had that support followed by a long wick. If you go to H4, we could always refine this, right? We could always refine this into lower time frame. So I don't think it tapped here, but yeah, I think it tapped into these areas. Looks like what? This is a left shoulder, right? I think it's a left shoulder. Yeah, that's a left shoulder. So what happens? Look at this. There it goes. Boom. See that? Flies. Okay, then it flies. Now, if you are in my channel, you would have seen how I have my entries here, right? Entries here, here, all these here. I'll show you how to get all of them, okay? Because once the direction is clear, all you have to do is just find out the zone for an entry. Okay. Now look at this one.
Look,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the example you just showed, was the left shoulder fresh?
Now, once again, you might be exposed to this stuff. Okay, we will talk about fresh and non-fresh, all that later. Okay, do not think of any of this because there are people who do not even know the basics. Okay, so we're not going to talk about any of them right now. Okay, so don't think about fresh or unfresh or whatever. Not right now.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see some more. Yeah, look at this. See that? What's that? A support, right? That's a support. See? Look at the reactions. Okay, we have V's, we have all that stuff. And let's see some more examples. Because once you train your eyes, like as soon as you open the charts, okay, if you could see them right away, it's very important. Okay, it's very important that you need to see them as soon as you open the charts, otherwise you'll be struggling. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, look at this one. Where did this drop come from? Right, I told you a bullish and a bearish candle will create what? A resistance, right? A bullish and a bearish candle will create a resistance. So what do we have in here? A bullish and a bearish candle. So we have this. Now, what you could do is inside of this zone, you could refine it into lower time frames. So if you go to daily, this is a daily SBR. Can you see that? Okay, support broken, turning into resistance. But we need to do a refinement, right? So let's go to H4. If we go to H4, now we can do a slight refinement of this zone into this zone. What is this? A resistance, right? H4 resistance, right here. Now you might wonder, why are we not going to refine it into this left shoulder? So why should we, right? The weekly zone is here. A refinement should be above the zone, not below the zone. Okay, so there we go. We have that zone in here. Okay, we have that zone, and then what happens? There it drops. See that? Very nice. Okay, so yeah, that was a nice trade. That was a nice trade from all those areas. And what else? What else? Let's see. Let's try to see more examples of SPR maybe. Yeah, look at this. Very simple. First of all, this was a support, right? This right here was a support. And then the support was broken here. As soon as this candle ended, the market went up, reacted to that support, and made another drop. Okay, so this is SBR. Can you see that? So once you go to the line chart, everything starts to make sense. Okay, everything will start to make sense. All these reversals, all these moves are from the line chart. Okay, from the closing prices, which means, look at this. This, where did this come from? Right here. See, look at the position. It's a V, right? We talked about this. That's a V. There we go. Taps, starts to move up. Okay, then it starts to move up. So what else? Yeah, these were, of course, from trend lines. I took this from trend lines. Look at this. See that? Look at the move. Like even this was Thursday's buy, I think. Even Thursday's buy, these were from trend lines. I'll talk about trend lines because a trend line isn't just the confluence. Most people use it only as confluence, but a trend line is also a good way to determine direction. Okay, I'll show you all of that later. Yeah, look at this one. Look at where the buy came from. We had a trend line that was broken. We call this a break and retest trend line. Okay, so look at the move. See that? Break. So it broke right here, right? It broke right here, came back into the trend line, boom, starts to move up. So if you're buying it here, yeah, we will talk about all this stuff. See, that's a 240 pip move. Okay, so yeah, good stuff. If you understand this well, you will always have some good entries. Okay, you're gonna always have some good entries. Look at this. What is that? Once again, RPS, resistance broken, turns into a support, right? Then it turns into a support. Okay. So that's the very basic stuff. Now there's another type of SNR. We call it open close levels. Okay. We call it open close levels. Now, open close levels are made when you have same type of candles. We say, let's say we have two bullish candles, then an open close is made. Let's say we have two bearish candles, then once again an open close is made. See, what is this? First bullish candle and another bullish candle. So this right here is what we call the open close level. Okay, we call it an open close level because we're simple. I told you when it comes to SNR, we always focus on the closing prices, right? So this is the closing price of this bullish candle that could be used as a point of interest. Okay, this could be used as a key level, whatever. See, two bullish candles, even this one, two bullish candles, right? Could act as a support. Even this one, two bearish candles. Again, although they didn't play out, I'll tell you how to pick the best zones. Okay, there's a way to filter out zones because now once I teach you everything, now you might be okay. So we have it everywhere. What am I going to use for entries? Okay, so don't worry about entries. We'll go through them. Okay, now right now your job is to just identify these levels. Very simple. That's it. Okay. So yeah, that's about now. Let's look some examples of open close levels. Okay, because I love these open close levels very well. Very much actually, because I'll show you later. Okay, because when it comes to decision points, we're always dealing with these open close levels. Okay, so I will show you examples. Yeah, now it's the same thing with the open close levels. Now let's say we had two bearish candles, right? Let's say we had two bearish candles like this. So what is the open close level? It is this level, right? This is the open close level because this is the closing price of this bearish candle. Now, first of all, what do we expect? We expect a move like this, right? Because it is a resistance. But once again, it's the same logic. If it breaks, it could act as a support. Okay, because like I told you, it is a type of SNR. Okay, so if a support is broken, it turns into resistance. If a resistance is broken, it turns into support. Very simple. Okay, so let me show you some examples of open close levels now. Yeah, here we go. Here we have a very nice example. See, that's an open close, right? Two bullish candles created the closing price in here. Where did the market come into? Came right here, started moving up. Now, what you could do is, if you are not okay with entering directly, you could refine this into lower time frames, right? Now, what do we have on the H4 time frame? Another open close level, very close to the daily level. So you can refine it to that. Okay, if you go to H1, let's check H1. H1 is the last time frame that we go into. Yeah, see, daily level, H4 level. Maybe on the H1, we have another open close level. Can you see that? So let's see how the market reacted. I think it tapped into the H4, didn't go back to the H1. Oh, yeah, it did. Can you see that? So this is how we could do the refinements. Understanding that this is a daily zone, you can refine it to the nearby lower time frames like this. See that? Look at the precision. Taps, starts to move up. Okay, and then it starts to move up. So that's that. So let's see some more open close levels. Yeah, on the weekly we had some good ones. Yeah, look at this one. What is this? This is an open close level, right? That's an open close level. But what did this candle do? It broke through it. See that? It broke through it. So once it is broken, you can expect it to act as a support. Now, once again, you might be wondering, okay, why not this level? Okay, so those are once again stuff that you will understand once we talk about the basics. Okay, so there we go. Now what you could do is, this is a weekly level, refining it to the daily level. See that? And if you want to do more refinements, I don't see anything on the H4. You can refine it to this, but we'll talk about why we're not going to refine it there. And then, yeah, look at this. We had trend lines. Or you might be wondering what type of a trend line this is. This is a type of a break and retest trend line. Okay, so we will talk about trend lines later. Now look at the precision. What I want to show you is the precision. Look at that. See that? Where it tap into very accurately. Right into the daily and the weekly level. Look at that. Taps, boom, like right away. It doesn't even mess around on that area. Right away, it runs up to, look at this, 280 pips. Just like as soon as it taps. See, taps from the next candle, it starts to fly. Okay, so once you understand this, yeah, it gets better and better. Look at this. I'll show you some more. Weekly, on the weekly, yeah, look at this. Let me see. Even this one, where did this tap into very accurately? Where did this step into? Open, close. Can you see it? Right here, open, close, or as right here. These are decision points. We will go through decision points. Okay, we call this a rising point. So look at the move. Look at this. You can call this this right here is a resistance now, right? Because I told you once the support is broken, it turns into a resistance. Now, can you see how this level was used as a support? See, rejected here, rejected here, rejected here. But this candle broke it. So once a support is broken, now, first of all, at this point, if I put the replay tool here, at this current moment, this zone is what? This zone is a support, right? This zone is a support. That is why the market kept closing above it. But once it's broken, like this, once it's broken, it turns into what? Once it's broken, it turns into a resistance, right? It turns into a resistance. So what happens? There it goes, steps, and then it starts to drop. Can you see? So very important, very, very important that you pay attention to these levels. Okay, I'll show you how to filter out the good levels and all of that later. Right now, all you have to do is just understand the logic behind this. Okay, why we're choosing closing prices and all that stuff. Okay, look at this one. Where did the buy come from? Where did the buy come from? You can say these areas. Did it tap here? I think so. Yeah. Even this area. Can you see it? It was used as a resistance in here, a resistance in here, a resistance in here, and then it's broken. It turns into a support. Can you see that? You can see the precision, right? I can't make this up. Okay, you can see the precision very clearly. Look at that. Taps, starts to move up, right? And then even this one, if you do this, you'll be confused, but I'll show you how to do this. Look at this. Taps, starts to move up. Like all of these weekly lows are made on closing prices of some time frame. Look at this. The low, where is that made? Open, close. Can you see that? Where is this low made? Open, close. See that? Look at the entries then if you go into the lower time frames. The perks of staying on the higher time frame, because the lower time frames would have gotten you confused. See? Buys here, buying it here, right? Buying it here. Look at this, buying it here. What you could do is refinements if you wanted to. This one into this RBS. See that? You see the precision, right? This is what I'm trying to show you. See the precision there. This one maybe you can refine it to, where can we refine this into? I don't see anything on the H4. We have this RBS. Yeah, I think the RBS is what we could have used here. Might have got stopped out though because the drawdown. Let's see. Normally we have a 20 to 25 pips stop loss. Yeah, 25 pips is safe from the zone. 25 pips would have kept you in. Now, don't think of the drawdown, okay? Because your targets, if you're trading on the higher time frames, you're not just going to close it with 20 to 30 pips. No, you're always going to have 100 to 150 pip targets or more than that. Okay. So yeah, look at this one. This zone you could have refined into maybe here. See, what is that? RBS. Okay, so this is how you could refine zones and do all that stuff. So you see this, right? You see where all these lows are made, and this is just on the lower time frame. Now, I'm sorry, on the higher time frames, on the weekly time frame itself. Can you see the precision? Look at that, buy, 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 buy. Okay, so very precise if you understand it well. Okay, if you understand it well, it is very, very precise. Now, I took a sell this day. This was on Friday. How did I take the sell? What is this? An open close, right? We call this an open close. You can see that very clearly. Then what you could do is inside of this open close, you can go into the lower time frames and then do some refinements. Let's go to the daily. Did we have anything to refine this into? No, just a long wick. Then let's go to the H4. Now, if you go to H4, of course, we had many zones inside of this. See, we had this resistance here. We had this resistance here. Can you say, but I did not take any of this. Okay, I did not refine it to the H4 levels. I'll tell you why later. If you go to H1, on the H1, we had two levels that we could refine into. So we call this, yeah, you can even call this multi-time frame, because inside of the weekly zone, we had this H1 open close and we had the H1 resistance. Can you see that? So where did the cells come from? Right there. From inside of the weekly zone, we had the H1 level. So you see where the cells came from, right? Taps, and then it starts to drop. Look at that. Look at the drop. You have a drop of, yeah, 340 pips that day on a Friday. Okay, so this is how good it is if you pay attention. Okay, if you pay enough attention, like look at this one, even this sell. Oh, it was awesome. The next confirmation entry, let's see. Why did I tell you? I told you a buy and a sell candle will create a resistance, right? So now what do we have here? A bullish candle, a bearish candle. So this should be a resistance. Can you say? Yeah, you can't see it very clearly unless you zoom in a lot. See, that's the A formation, but that's what I told you. A bullish candle and a bearish candle. Now, once again, with broker, there are problems with brokers, and you might see stuff like this. Now, look at this. The closing price is here, the opening price is here. You might be wondering which one am I going to use? Then remember, simply you're always going to use closing prices. Okay, and another thing to point out is that if you are trading gold, this is the broker you should use. Okay, Saxo. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce it. Maybe that's how. Okay, Saxo or whatever. This is the broker that you should use because the reason is we will be dealing with the H4 time frame a lot, like so much for confirmation entries and many other stuff. Okay, so we'll be dealing with the H4 time frame. The problem is different brokers have different closing times. So the H4 candles will differ. Now, Saxo is the most closest one to MT4. Okay, Saxo is the most closest one to MT4. Okay, now let me show you the sell and then, yeah, look at this. This is a resistance. That's a resistance, right, on the H4. And then what happened? The market taps back into the resistance and boom, melts. Can you see that? So you see where the sales came from, right? Most people won't even have an idea where it came from, but yeah, that is where it came from. Now look at this. If you go into other brokers like Oanda, now Oanda is very accurate for forex pairs. Okay, like even if I don't trade this anymore, but when I was trading it, Oanda was the most accurate. See now for forex pairs, I only have Oanda, so that's enough. But for gold, you can't use Oanda. The reason is, yeah, I told you the reason already. Now look at the difference. Okay, look at this just have a look at this H4 candles on Saxo, and then if you go to Oanda, see, it's completely different. See, this wasn't even there on any MT4 broker or whatever. See, these are broker issues. So don't use Oanda. Oanda is not accurate, in my opinion. Like I don't trust Oanda to do my analysis. I do my analysis only on MetaTrader itself. I don't do my analysis on MT4. So the closest one to MT4 is Saxo. Okay, so please, if you're trading gold, do not use any other broker. Use this one. This is the most accurate one. Okay, and yeah, now for MT4, I use IC markets. Okay, IC markets and RoboForex. So that's that. Now you can understand this, right? You can understand all of these now. Open close, right? You can see the open close levels. You can see SPR, RBS, and all of that. So everything, all these reversal points, all these turning points are made on them. Okay, made on them. So what you should do is you need to be able to spot them very quickly. Like if I come here, look at this. Now, what is this? See now, after some time, you don't even have to go into the line chart. Okay, you can spot the levels easily. Now we had these levels if you wanted to sell. Now let's say, how can we refine this level? This is a weekly level, right? That's a weekly SBR. Now remember, I'm sorry, RBS. Oh, no, SBR, sorry. Okay, the names aren't necessary. Okay, if you understand the logic, it's more than enough. First of all, it was a support. Now it is broken, so we could expect it to act as a resistance. Now what you could do is, now if you place direct trades on the higher time frame levels, you might have to suffer from a little bit of drawdown. So the best thing to do is mark out the higher time frame level, go into the lower time frames, and then try refining it into those lower time frame levels. Okay, so that, and then what you do is you don't place your direct entry here. You place it from where you refined it. That is the reason we do a refinement, right? If you're placing it here, it says no, there's no point of doing a refinement. So what you could do is mark out your higher time frame level, go to the lower time frame, and then do the refinements. If we go to daily, now in here on the daily, of course, I don't see anything. But if you go to H4, remember the line, we're dealing with price levels. What is this? A resistance. See that? A weekly resistance. Now you might think, oh, the market has already tapped into that. Now that is on the H4, but did the weekly ever tap into that? No. Okay, so that is why higher time frames matter. We will go through all of that. And then look at this. So where did the sell come from? Right there. See that? Like instantly, look at the drop it made. Oh, 300 pips. See? So these are well-planned trades. I'll show you. Yeah, I'll show out of all of that stuff later. Can you see that? Like even right now, where did the sell come from? Once again, from that weekly level. So you see the importance of these higher time frame levels, right? They can be used again and again for intraday setups and all that stuff. See? Selling here, trades here, and even I think it was the buy in here, right? Or is yeah, there was a buy in here using the same concept. Yeah, this one in here. What is this? This is a daily support, right? This right here is a daily support. So what can we do? Go into the lower time frames and do some refinements if you do not want to take direct entries from this zone. If you go to H4, we did have a support in here, right here. You can refine it into that. But if you go to H1, there's something way more clear. The last resort. Okay, in here, what's the last resort we had? We had a support that was never used. See that? H1 support. Why is this H1 support? Now you might wonder, okay, why didn't we use this? Why didn't we use this? We don't have to use this, right? Because we always choose zones, first of all, from the higher time frame. So this where the daily zone was. And then we do a little refinement of it into the H1 zone. Okay, into the H1 zone. So what happened? Okay, so look at the reactions from this. So we had this previous day's liquidity. We will talk about SMC as well a little bit. Okay, a very little bit of SMC is involved. You don't even have to know the advanced stuff, no ranges and all that. Okay, but yeah, look at this. What happened? Oh, see that? Where did this come from? Where did this come from? Right from the H1 level. Look at this. From here, where is your next reversal zone? We have zones here. Buying here, selling here. You can do more refinements if you are on the daily time frame. See, open, close, or else SPR. Can you see that? Look at the drops. You see the precision, right? You can't make these up. Look at the precision. Look at the precision. Sell, a sell here, or maybe a sell here. Open, close. We call this a dropping point because it broke through. Yeah, we will go through all that. Look at this. Another drop in here. Okay, so all you have to do is just understand. Like even the current buy, I did not take the current buy. Like didn't take a direct entry, but I'll explain once you go into storylines why the market reacted to this open close in here. Can you see that? There's an open close, right? With some liquidity sitting above it here, or maybe here. And then what happened? The market did that. Can you see the precision? Look at this. No drawdown. See that? That is why I keep telling you to practice. Okay, if you understand the logic behind this, it's more than enough. Okay, it is more than enough. All you have to do is understand. So there we go. So you see the precision, right? You see the precision, and don't think you can only trade gold with this. You can trade EU, you can trade GU, you can trade NAS 100. Yeah, there are some of my students who trade NAS 100. You can trade that. You can trade crypto, whatever. Okay, but I personally, I love gold. Reason is because gold's price action is very clean. Once you understand gold, yeah, gold will be your best friend because you can read this very clearly. Okay, you can read the gold market very clearly if you understand these concepts of storylines, decision points, and all of that. Okay, and trend lines, of course. So if you understand those concepts, gold, trust me, after you master this stuff, you're only going to trade gold. I can guarantee you that. Okay, and you will fall in love with gold. Okay, because EU and GU, these ones do not move a lot, right? They do not move a lot. Okay, but that doesn't mean you can't trade this. You can trade this. Okay, like for example, where did the cells come from? We had an open close, right? We had an open close here. What you could do is refine it into the lower time frames. What do we have here? SPR. See, always picking up a higher time frame level and then refining it into the lower time frame level. Steps, minutes. Can you see? Now look at this one. Look at this one. If you go to daily, we had an open close where the market reacted to, and then the next day around this area, this is how we do refinements. Around that same daily area, we had this. What is this? Head and shoulder, or as left shoulder. Or as if you go to H1, what can you do? If you go to H1, you have another open close in here. So from these areas, this will be your buy zone, because if you talk about storylines, you will understand this. Okay, we will talk about storylines. So yeah, daily rejects a daily support, and then one time frame low, that is H4. H4 gives you a bullish breakout, so we have that very clearly. And then once again, we're starting from the high time frame itself to start to pick up our zone. So we have this same daily zone because we do not have anything else on the day, right? We have another one that is here. but we're not expecting the market to drop through them. We will go through them, don't worry. And then around that area, we refine into lower time frames like this, right? We refine into lower time frames, and then what happens? Boom, there it goes. Can you say, so where did the moves come from? Where did all these moves come from? From the higher time frames, right? From the higher time frame levels itself. Like, look at this. There's a nice re-entry in here. What is this? A resistance being broken, right? A resistance being broken, then it turns into what? A support, right? Once a resistance is broken, we know that it turns into a support. But now, how do we know that we could trust this level? Right? That's the problem. How do we know that we could trust this level? So that is the reason why we use confluence, right? That is the reason why we use a confluence. So our confluence will be a trend line. Look at this. Where's this? There we go. We have a break and retest trend line. We call this a break and retest trend line. See, we had a trend line like this, which pushed price down here, and now it is broken. So now look at this. The next candle, if the next candle wants to get into this RBS, we have the trend line and the key level overlapping very nicely. So what happens? There it goes. See that? Re-entries. Okay, you will have some good re-entries. You will have some now. We will talk about everything. Don't worry. Okay, this is just a basic session because we have entries. We have high risk setups. We have low risk setups. We have medium risk setups. Okay, so you need to understand how much you're going to risk for high risk setups, how much you're going to risk for low risk setups, and how much you're going to risk for medium risk setups. We will go through all of that. There's so much more to cover. This is just the basics, but you know this, right? Basics are the foundation to anything. Okay, so if your basics are strong, yeah, you don't have to worry about any advanced stuff because the advanced stuff is using all the basic stuff. Okay, so if you do not understand the basics well, there is no point of going into the advanced stuff. So please make sure you practice this. Okay, don't just watch the session once again once I send you the recording and think, okay, I know this or I know. You don't. Okay, it will take some time for you to understand this. Okay, even with the basics, you will have questions. Now, when I show it to you, it looks very easy, right? It looks very, very easy. But I'm showing stuff in hindsight. So to show stuff in hindsight is anyway, it's very easy. Okay, anyone can do that. But once we start with the advanced session and all of that, at the start of the week, I'll show you what I'm expecting. Okay, what I'm expecting for the week. At the start of a month, I'll show you what I'm expecting for the month. And at the start of a day, I'll show you what I'm expecting for the day and all that stuff. Okay, so you will get that. But please make sure you understand the basics. Okay, because I'm not a signal provider or whatever. Okay, do not wait for me to tell you, okay, do this and do that. Okay, take entries here, close it here. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna spoon feed anyone. Okay, so you need to do the hard work, practice. Okay, I will always help out. Okay, I'll show you the zones that I'm interested in and all that stuff as well. But please do not 100% rely on that. Make sure you do your own analysis as well. Okay, so because what if I die, right? you can't, could happen, right? It could happen to any of us. So you can't rely on my signals or setups right away. So please make sure you do the practicing as well. You do your own practice as well. Okay. Yeah, let's just look into some zones. You can see this, right? Look at the position. Okay. From open, close levels and all of that. This resistance, I don't think the market tapped. Look at this. All of these are made on these levels. Look at this. Where was this made? Can you see? So I just want to show you that it works. Okay, it works. Doesn't matter if it's GU, EU, gold, whatever it is, it works. See? Look at this. Look at this. Can you see that? So all you have to do is, once again, like I told you, practice. Okay, all it takes is practice. And after some time, yeah, you can call out the high of the week, the high of the day, high of the week, month, whatever. Okay, whatever. So
Brother,
yeah,
I have a question over here. Can I annotate and show you which line?
yeah.
Do you annotate on? Yeah. So I think you drew a line around here.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get the sell, like the resistance that it made.
Those are advanced stuff. Okay, I'll show you.
Yeah.
This one here. Okay, this
Yeah,
one.
yeah, this one, yeah.
So these types of zones are very strong. Okay, these are some advanced stuff. We will go deeply into this because why? Can you see that this level was once used as a support?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so after those levels are broken, it pretty much gets used as a resistance at least once. Okay, before falling. So that is why we use that level because most people, when the market is here, oh sorry, when the market is here, they will ignore this zone. Okay, they'll ignore this zone. They will right away focus on this open close and then this resistance. But we need to understand that below that we have a strong zone as well. So you need to pay attention to that too. Okay, so that is why we marked out those levels. Now we will go into this. These are advanced stuff. Okay, these are some advanced stuff, but we will go into that. Okay, we will go into that. Don't worry, I'll show you how to filter out those unnecessary levels and all of that. Okay, but you see this, right? It works on EU, it works on GU, it works on gold. Whatever you want to trade, you can trade with this. Okay, very simple. And it's very strong. Once you understand storylines, you will see that you're never lost with the direction. Okay, you're not lost with the direction. That's the main thing. Okay, look at this. See, reacting from weekly levels, you could maybe do some refinements into lower time frames, right? Let's see what we had on the lower time frames around these weekly zones. We have one zone here. I think that is too far away. Yeah, came almost into there, but I'll show you. Okay, so you see this, right? It works anywhere. It works anywhere. All you have to do is practice. Okay, practice is what it takes. Like even on the monthly, even from the monthly time frame, you can see the precision. Look at this. Let's see. Yeah, look at this. Where did this sell come from? Monthly open close. See, look at this. This candle in here, this bearish candle broke through this. So first of all, this was a support. Now it is broken. So we could expect it to act as a resistance, right? So what happened? The next month, yeah, you can do refinements if you want to. Maybe this level into this level. I don't think it went into the refined zone, but yeah, let's check. There it goes. Like instantly, can you see that when it taps into high time frame zones? This reaction you get. Like instantly you're up like, what's that? See? 430 pips. Like what more do you need, right? This is in one day, one single day. Most people have a 100 pip target for their whole week. But if you trade gold, 100 pips is nothing. You can get it in 1 or 2 hours. That's the thing. Okay. And look at this now. I'll show you something. Don't get yourself confused with this. I'm only showing you the power of these open close levels and all of that. Okay. So of the closing prices, we're not going to even go into the left this much. Okay. We will not do that. I'll show you an example of the closing prices, how strong the closing prices are, but don't think of it deeply once again. Okay. Look at this. Where was the high of this candle made? Right here. Okay. Where was the high of this candle made? Right here. Closing prices. Can you see that? Closing prices. Where was the high of this candle made? Closing price. Where was the high of this candle made? Closing price. Okay. Where was the high of this candle made? Closing price. Can you see that? Look at this. Where's the high of this candle made? Closing price. Okay, so now we're not going to rely on this though. I'm just showing you how strong these monthly closing prices are. Can you see that? Look at the entries if you paid attention to them. See this? Look at this. Okay. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. See that? Once that level is broken, it is being used as a support. We have all of that. Okay, so very, very, very strong. Okay, these monthly levels are very strong. Like, look at this. Even this. You have to have sharp eyes for this. Okay. How did this close? Right above the monthly open close. Broken, right? First of all, this was a resistance. Now it is broken, so which means it is not anymore a resistance, but it is a support, right? It is a support. Then what you could do is maybe refine into lower time frames if you want to, right? Just do something like that, and then look at the reaction from that. Not yet. Oh, there it goes. Can you see who stopped this huge push? Who stopped it? Who put an end to it? The monthly level. Now, if you go to monthly, where was the low of the month created? Where was the low of the month created? Right there. See that? So it's very important. It is very important. Now, I told you something like this right now. Can you see this level in here? What is this level? This is a closing price once again being broken. But this is a very good zone because why? This zone was once used as a resistance. Can you see how this zone pushed price down here? Now it is broken, so it could act as a support, right? It could act as a support. So let's see. Oh, I'll have to play 30 candles, I think. Let's see. No. There it comes. Can you see that? Why did I tell you these types of zones are good zones? Because Once it was used as a resistance, it's broken, then it got used as a support, low of the month. In case
Bro,
yeah.
what do we can you go back to the monthly time frame? What do we do about these price action, these types of price action, like over here?
Like, what do you mean? What do we do here?
Like the price action is not clear. Like it didn't make an open close. It just, you know, did
It's very
this.
clear. Look at this.
Yeah.
What is this? A buy and a sell candle. So what is this? This is a resistance.
Oh, a buy and a sell. Oh, what confused me was the
I told
close
you,
of
right?
the
Broker issues, broker issues. Don't get confused with that. Okay, so
okay, yeah.
yeah, this type of shit happens with these brokers. I don't know why. Okay, so don't get confused with that. Okay, so always remember that if there is a bullish and a bearish candle, that's a resistance, and you need to pay attention to that. Then what you could do is refine these into lower time frames, maybe. Let's go to the daily. Yeah. On the daily, what do we have? We had this monthly level here. On the daily, we had open close levels. See that? Monthly inside of this monthly, just think of it like this whole thing was your monthly resistance. So inside of this monthly resistance, what did we have? We had these levels. I don't know if this played out or not. If you go to H4, let's see if we could do more refinements. No, we had a dropping point here on the H4. Okay, we'll talk about that later. We have some liquidity resting below those zones. So let's see how the market reacted. Yeah, there it goes. See that? So it's clear. It's clear if you stick to the higher time frames. Okay, so it is not until it's always clear if you stick to the high time frame. Now, this, of course, would have stopped us out, I think. Yeah. Let's see if we could do more refinements of this. Yeah, we had one more H1 resistance here. That is where I tapped into, see. So we will go through all of that. Don't worry. Okay, we will go through all of it. That is not a problem. All you have to do is just please practice the basics, master the basics, because as soon as you open the charts, you need to be able to see the stuff. Okay, open, close, resistance, support, SPR, RBS, all that stuff. You need to be able to see it as soon as you open the charts. That's the thing. Okay, so yeah, that is pretty much it for today. Okay, we will have another session very soon. Yeah.
Identify. I like to learn with some kind of.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I can't hear you clearly. Bro.
I said I always get things easier when I know that this is the procedure I'm following. You identify the levels with precision, especially at the monthly when you were doing it. But
we will go through all of that. Don't worry. Okay, we will go through all of that. Just right now, your only job is to identify what I told you. A's, V's, how supports break can then turn into resistance, how resistance break can then turn into support. Okay, because now I can cover everything in one session, in like a 5-hour session. Not a problem. That's easy for me as well. But what's the point if people don't understand, right? That's the thing. Okay, that is why we go one by one. Do not think of advanced stuff right away. Okay, just this is the basics. This is the basics very simply. So focus on this only. A's and V's. That's your only job. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. Some of them are brand new to these concepts. That because I have to be fair, right? Just because like some of you know this stuff, I can't directly go into the advanced stuff. Okay, no, we'll have to start from the basics. So bear with me. After a week or two, we will get into the advanced stuff. Okay, so right now, all you have to do is just see how A's worked out, see how V's worked out, see how support's broken and it turned into resistance, how resistance breaks, turns into support, and just pay attention to that stuff only, nothing more. Okay, nothing more than that.
Also,
okay.
to make it more simpler for us, it's like you are very good already with seeing the levels at the candlestick chart.
Yeah.
If you can be using the line chart for us so that we get used to that, then we can at least transition to the candlestick later.
Okay, so just what you could do is right now, until you practice this, just use that moving average thing, put the line chart on the candlestick itself. So that way you will know as soon as you see the candlestick itself, you will know if there is a closing price or not. Okay, so like very simple, if you put it here, let me just do it. Moving average. If you set it to 1, okay, until you practice, just do it like this. Okay, use this thing until you practice this. So like after some time, once you even without this, okay, you will know that okay, on the line chart, these are spikes, right? Even these are little spikes. So you know that, see that? Okay, and even these areas, you know that this was a V. So without the indicators or without the line chart, you will see that. Okay, so you will see that. Okay, there's a support, it was broken, it turned it resistant, blah, blah, all that stuff. Okay, so now there are more stuff that you need to think about deeply. So these aren't even that. Okay, this is just the basics. So don't even think this is hard. Don't think, okay, there are 2 minutes. Okay, don't even think of any of that, because if you make it complicated at the beginning itself, yeah, it'll be very hard for you to get over that. Okay, so don't even think of it. It's just very simple. All you have to do is just follow what I say. Okay, just see how S and V is played out, see how support breaks, turns into resistance, and open closes and all of that. Nothing else, nothing else, nothing more, nothing else. Okay, try to keep it as simple as well, because even when I started with SNR, I had the same questions like you guys. Okay, and then after some time, I realized that all my questions were completely unnecessary. Okay, because these are the basics. These are the basics. Stick to this, because this will be a very simple approach. Okay, so to do the analysis here with this, like once we complete the advanced stuff and all of that, to do an analysis for the day, it takes only 30 seconds. Okay, that is how good it is. That is how simple it is. It takes 30 seconds to 1 minute maximum. Okay, so please make sure you like follow what I say. Don't do anything more than that. Okay, if you do anything more than that, if you get yourself confused, that is honestly not my problem, right? You're getting confused with something that I haven't even taught. Okay, so do not do that. Do not do that. Just stick to what I say. That's it. Okay, I'm only responsible for what I teach. I don't know if anyone else is teaching SNR. If you've been exposed to SNR, so just completely forget that. Now here you're here with me. I'll even give you my trading plan, what I look for, and all of that stuff. But before that, stick to this. Don't look at anything else. That is what I can tell you. Okay. So yeah, guys, then that's it for today.
Yeah, I have a question actually.
Yeah. What's that?
Yeah. So how many times can the support or resistance be broken? Like, and you still consider it?
The higher time frames levels, like the monthly, weekly, and daily, they can be used so many times actually. Okay, they can be used so many times, but then again, it will be confused. Like normally, now there is a concept called fresh and not fresh. Okay, so according to that, once the market uses a resistance, let's say this resistance is used. Okay, let's say the market is coming back into that area. Okay, so we don't like normally the chances of this holding is very less likely. Okay, so once again, if you're trying to look for a sell in here, the chances of this happening is very, very less likely. Okay, so we call this a used level. We call this this is an unfresh level. Okay, but then again, there is something called decision points. Okay, there is something called concept called decision points. But when it comes to decision points, you can use them like as many times as you want. Okay, so that's the thing. I will show you decision points. It is a very hard thing actually. That's a little hard to understand, that consider decision points, but I will show you that later. Once it comes into that, you will see when we're going to use fresh levels and when we're going to use unfresh levels. You will understand that. Okay, but as of now, just stick to this. I will show you all that later. Okay.
Great, thanks.
So okay, nice. So anything else? Does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, actually, last question.
Yep.
So how many sessions do we have, and like what's the curriculum like?
That of course we will decide the times when everyone is available and all of that. Okay, so yeah, we have the chat here, we have the group in Discord here. We will discuss. Okay, when everyone is free, that is when we're doing session. Okay, we don't want to like, even if people are not there, we will have to do the sessions, because I will have to do at least 1 or 2 sessions every week. So we will be doing that anyway. Okay, 1 or 2 sessions every week, we will be doing that. Please try to attend the sessions. Okay, because I will send the recording as well. But then again, like while look like in live, like when we're doing a session like this, it's better to always ask your questions and then get them cleared, because when you're watching the recording, like you're not into it, right? Maybe you're doing something else and you're watching the recording and all that, so you will lose focus. But if you're doing it live, you need to listen to what I say, right? So you will have good questions. So please try to attend sessions, and we will have 1 to 2 sessions every week. Okay, but the times will differ. Just to see if everyone is available, and according to my schedule and all of that, it will differ. So I can't tell you right away, okay, we're only going to have sessions on Wednesdays, Mondays, Tuesdays. No. Okay, so we will have sessions whenever we can have one. Okay, like that. Yeah, anything else I need to go through? Let me know. No? Yeah, some people are completely quiet. Hopefully you guys understood everything. Okay, so that's okay if you want to
Yeah,
speak, you
it
can
was
speak.
clear.
Okay,
It
nice.
was clear. Just
Awesome.
have to practice now.
Yes. Please please practice. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is everyone, if you are okay with this and we so support and SS, no problem, just skip this. But what I want everyone to do is, for the ones that are new to this, go to the charts. Okay, go to the charts and then see, just send some examples of how how supports played out, how resistances played out, how open close levels played out, and all of that. Okay, so at least 50 examples from each. Okay, so a resistance, a support, open close, RBS, SVR, all that. So that way I know you understood the concept very clearly. Okay, so please do it that way. I'll correct them. Send your charts in the group. Okay, I'll always look into that. Okay. Yeah. Anything else? Let me know.
Brother, how big of a role does liquidity inducements play into this?
No inducements. Okay.
No
Just
inducements.
forget that word. Remove it from your dictionary itself. Okay. We don't focus on inducements. Liquidity, of course, we will go through liquidity a little bit. Okay, so when dealing with SMC, we will only deal with we will only deal with liquidity here, because if you are trading EU or GU, like if you're trading forex pairs, you need to add a little bit of SMC into it. So by SMC, I mean not ranges and all that stuff. All we focus on is session liquidity, previous day high, previous day low, previous week high, previous week low, and previous month high, previous month low. That is the only type of liquidity that we will focus on. That's the only type of SMC involved. So this trading style is around 95% SNR, 5% SMC. That is liquidity only. Okay, so not that important. No, that's not very important, but I'm not
We
saying it
still
is not
keep in
important.
mind.
Okay, we will. I will show you that. Okay, once we go into the backtesting sessions, you will understand how we use it. Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question also.
Yeah.
Actually, so how likely is, or rather, because like for example, SMC was really popular like maybe
Yeah.
last few years, right?
Mhm.
And then that's when you started to see like SMC traders start to like get trapped all the time, right? So like what are the chances that this SNR is just like
Nah,
a
I don't
fad
think
and
so. Now,
doesn't
there's the
work as
thing.
well?
Yeah. Now, the thing about SMC is now people have different versions of SMC, right? Like,
Yeah.
like, it's not the same thing that everyone talks about when it comes to SMC. Okay. So this, of course, now remember now, if you guys know Diera the Gold Digger, okay, I have her screenshots as well. That is where I studied from a lot. Okay, I did have a mentor who was good for nothing. So I'm not gonna, no offense, but yeah. Okay, so what he did was, now I'll tell you, he just opened the like I had some notes from the founders. He sent it to me. This is like I think almost like 2 years back. I think I don't even remember. No, I don't think that's 2 years, 1.5 years maybe. So what he did was he opened some notes on his iPad, and then on the notes he had storyline, like there were just notes, and then what he did was he read it out to me, and that's it. Okay, so I paid him for that. So after that, of course, it was my hard work. So that is how I figured it out, like practicing DLR screenshots, studying the notes again and again and again. So that is how I got good at it. So now Diera, she was trading. I think this was the price section when she left somewhere here. This is 2019. Okay, from 2019, and this is 2023. It is 4 years now. We're talking 4 years ago, and right now, even after 4 years, it works perfectly fine. Okay, and you've seen my entries, right? Like you can get the high of the weeks, high of the month, high of the day, all of that stuff is tradable. So I don't think this is like SMC. This is very strong. This is a very, very strong approach. Okay, you can't even compare this to SMC, to be honest. Okay, so this thing will work completely fine. Do not have any doubt about it. This will work perfectly fine. Like I can guarantee you that 100%. Okay. Yeah.
Cool, bro. Thanks.
Okay, nice. What else? Anyone else with questions? No?
I just wanted to say thank you very much. I'm
Okay.
listening at work, and I'm going to go back and watch everything
Okay,
and
bro.
send those charts. So I really appreciate it.
Okay, awesome, bro. Nice. Okay, guys, then that's it for today. Hope you guys have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you guys in the next session. Please send the charts. So if you guys are doing any mistakes, I can correct that. Doesn't matter if you are advanced or like whatever level you are, just send the charts. That way I know you guys are understanding it properly. Okay, so I'll check it out. I'll check that out, and I'll let you know the times for the next session. Maybe tomorrow or Monday. Okay, we can have our next session on today's the 3rd, maybe Tuesday. Yeah, maybe Tuesday we can have another session. We will do that. Okay, but before the session, I want everyone to practice. Okay, I want everyone to practice. So yeah, and also